We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, and now in Albuquerque, New Mexico at 1000 KKIM. Our guest by phone is Tom Del Beccaro. Tom, did I mispronounce your name again?
No, that's okay. Actually, it's funny. It's Del Beccaro, but you're injecting yourself into a centuries-old argument on how we should be saying our last name.
What is that originally? Is it Italian?
It's from Lucca, Italy.
Lucca, Italy. Okay, I recognize the Italian in the name, but okay. Head of the California Republican Party. So, what I was about to ask you, Tom, before we went on the break was, let's go back to Damon Dunn. I know you remember Damon. He ran for Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. He recently dropped the R from his name because he is running for mayor of Long Beach, and he knows with the R next to his name, there's no way he's going to win in Long Beach, and I can't blame him for that. But more and more I'm seeing people in the minority community drop the R from their name because they don't feel the party is embracing them, and if we don't embrace the minority community, we're dead. There's no way we can win without it. We actually had a record
number of minority candidates on the ballot in November at the state legislative level for Republicans, which was a good trend. We've also started in an effort to communicate more regularly with the minority community. But this is part of actually a bigger issue, and it's not unrelated to what we were just talking about. The fact of the matter is the Republicans don't talk to enough voters, period. And that is especially true when you consider the minority communities. This is this business we're in of politics is about getting votes. It's not about reaching out. I really detest the word reaching out because that implies that, okay, we're over here, and to get what I want, we have to reach over there. I don't want people to be reaching. I want them to have relationships. I want them to be communicating. I want them to be sharing ideas so that we can reach consensus in a better place. This notion that you can go about trying to win without talking to voters or enough of them is crazy. So, for instance, I happen to be an attorney who's in the courtroom a lot. I would never go into the courtroom and try and win a case by speaking to only 7 of the 12 jurors. I could win some cases that way, but it wouldn't make sense over time. And that's the problem with Republicans. They're not realizing that they actually have to talk to voters all the time and continually renew not only their relationship with their existing voters, but bring in new voters.
Let me give you an example of that, okay? Talking to Damon Dunn when he was running for Secretary of State, I asked him at the time he was living in Marina del Rey, and I said, Damon, where do they have you out talking? I said, are you going out into the minority community at all? He said, no. I said, Damon, from where you live, if you drew a diamond out about 5 miles, you'd cover the entire south central area, and that's where you need to be, because those are the people that you can convince using Republican ideals, and they have no idea what we stand for. And yet nobody had him going out to the minority community, which to me was insane.
Of course, the reality with Damon was that he was a virtual unknown even in the Republican community. So the reason why he was going around, his consultants had him going around to Republicans, is he needed to introduce themselves to Republicans. And this is what happens when you have a first-time candidate trying to run on a very large stage. He doesn't have a base, and so when you don't have a base, it's hard to go to what would traditionally be your non-base voters and try and win. So I really don't think Damon's a good example of something like this. I think
do we go to the minority community for anything?
Not nearly enough. The answer is we're starting to, and there are ways to go about it. For instance, let's take the Latinos and the border issue. I think the Republicans are going the wrong way about it, and I wrote about this in Forbes. The issue along the border is more than just how the Democrats and CNN are framing it. Their framing it, of course, is that we want to throw everybody out of the country and that we want to do it at the border. Well, that's a very negative, harsh discussion. Republicans know but they're not doing enough about it. And Latinos are very worried about the safety along the border. If that border was in Africa, given the drug lords that run it, the number of shootings, the number of, quite frankly, rapes, and all of those things perpetuated by a small group of people, but nevertheless a very dangerous group, if that border was in Africa, we would send troops and aid. But in America, what are we doing? We're basically ignoring it. Because CNN wants the issue to frame it so that the Democrats are successful, which they are, as opposed to Republicans being successful in reaching a solution. So when Republicans approach Latinos about the border issue and say, look, we're concerned about border safety. Please sit down with us so we can fashion a resolution or a solution to this, they come to the table. But when we do it on CNN's term or don't talk to them at all, we lose. Beyond that, all the polling shows, including the massive poll by Univision and Ted Cruz's poll in Texas when he was running, that the top issues for Latinos, turns out, are not immigration. In fact, in the Univision poll, it's number 9. They care about these issues. Now, see if these sound familiar to you. Number 1, jobs. Number 2, health care. Number 3, public safety. Those are the issues they care about as well. Do we, as Republicans, engage them and talk to them about those important issues? The answer is not nearly enough. So the analogy I give is this. If the only time you spoke to your spouse was to fight with her, you probably wouldn't have a very good relationship. However, if fighting was only 5% of your relationship, it would probably be a lot better. Well, why are we only speaking with Latinos on an issue we're disagreeing? It's important we talk to them about it, but we should have a relationship with them on all the other issues where they agree with us so that we can build up trust and then succeed on the more difficult issues. But since we're not doing the 95, we're falling victim to the 5.
Good point. We're having a conversation with Tom Del Beccaro, head of the California Republican Party.
You know, Tom, maybe it's time we start rethinking, like California did with the going to term limits, and in the United States Senate and Congress going to term limits like the president has. Let's eliminate the lifetime income. Let's eliminate the free lifetime medical care, and they don't have to be included in Obamacare. And maybe these people would vote the way they need to vote rather than voting just to get reelected and continue their positions.
Well, you know, the founders looked at that. I'm not sure that we're going to get all the way to a constitutional amendment to limit congressional seats. I think that's kind of a bridge too far, although I certainly am for a constitutional amendment to repeal the income tax and replace it with a consumption tax nationwide.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, because the income tax is very destructive to Americans. It is a class-based system of collecting taxes, which historically has always deeply divided the societies that have used them, that has led to a less productive society and more dependence on government, and it's a vicious cycle, and it would be great to end that.
Why would anybody want to get rid of the system where they don't have to pay taxes and the minority doesn't pay taxes and they have more votes than we have?
You're right, but eventually, you're completely right. Eventually we're going to need a leader who stands up and says dividing America and reducing our productivity is a bad way to go. We're not even collecting the money we could be, so let's turn the system. It'll be a difficult process, but if we don't do that, we are essentially dooming ourselves for decades and decades to come. I'm actually writing about this in a new book I'm writing called The Divided Era.
When's that going to be out?
I'm only about 20% done, so probably not until next year.
Well, let's give ourselves a raise,
You'll bring me
too.
back before then, though, won't you?
Oh, definitely.
You know, Tom, why don't we, while the economy is suffering, give ourselves a raise?
I don't have a good answer for that.
Oh, okay. Neither does anybody else. You know, but it's ridiculous that these people keep getting raises and unemployment keeps increasing.
Well, Look, when you have a stagnant economy, people turn to politicians who don't specialize in economics. In fact, they do the exact opposite. They create larger benefits which take from one sector and give to another, which is a net zero process, except for when you have excessive debt, and then it's actually a worse than net zero. It's a negative process.
That's how the Democrats get reelected.
We have to get back into the growing the economy game.
Yeah. Well, Tom, we've got less than a minute left. What's next for you after you leave your chairmanship?
Well, I need to finish this book. I'm starting a new pack that we're going to announce next month. So I think that's my prelude to telling you got to bring me back on so we can talk about it.
Okay. Well, listen, we'll have you back on in the next couple of months, and we appreciate the time this morning.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tom, and we'll see you.
For me.
We'll see you in March.
All right. Bye-bye.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.